And now, here's Casey Ingram.
Good morning, and hope everybody's doing well on this chilly, chilly morning. But we have a great topic on tap for this next hour, and something I've heard about. It's been out there. Everybody's talking about the Innovation Hub. So we're going to talk about what is it and where is it. So a couple things before we get into the show. We have a phone issue here at the studio. So if you want to make a comment or have a question, please do so over Facebook in the Facebook Live comment. You can also try and text me at 772-888-5828, my phone number. I'll try and look for your text as well for questions or comments. And we will be putting this show on YouTube. There's going to be some graphics, of course, on the radio. You can't see it. I'll add them in comments on Facebook. And when I upload this to my YouTube page on the Casey Ingram Show, I will have the graphics in the video. So that's what we're going to be talking about here. We're talking about the Innovation Hub, which is it Martin County's next 15-minute city? Kind of caught my attention. Gary Ehrler is in the studio with me. He was born in Palm Beach County. He's a Florida man through and through. He's been here in Martin County for 6 years, down in Port Salerno, small business owner, very active in Save Our Salerno, which is an organization, a nonprofit that came about because there was a lot of changes happening down in Port, or proposed changes happening in Port Salerno, specifically somebody, calling themselves a developer wanting to come in and change the look and face the developer without really involving the community, and then Commissioner Hurd got involved, and it's just been a real community effort to get together and save our Salerno, folks. They have a Facebook page, they have a website, they have an office. Absolutely, I have to shout out to them, Gary, because you do community cleanups, you do scholarships, you've done so much for the community that wasn't done there before.
There is so much going on, and it is all about the community and getting them involved.
It's incredible. It's something like I really haven't seen. I don't have another group to compare to it, and it's fantastic. Casey Cass, big shout out to you for getting the ball rolling and the whole community just coming together.
He's definitely the driving force.
You need somebody like that in the community, and it takes a community to make it happen. But Gary's a 35-year member of the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Local Union 630 with a background in industrial and commercial piping, working across the country, including Canada. And just kind of let you know, I'm going to do a little background here on the Innovation Hub. I had a chance to review this report. If you're watching, this was the report that the county had commissioned. Very big report. In July of 2023, they had it commissioned. It provides recommendations and strategies for the creation of an innovation hub in Martin County. The proposed Martin County Innovation Hub is generally bounded by Cove Road to the south, Monterey Road to the north, US 1 to the west, and Dixie Highway to the east. So kind of just north of the fairgrounds, south over into Port Salerno, and then, of course, US 1. In August of 2021, the Board of County Commissioners adopted the Martin County Economic Development Action Plan, which studied and analyzed economic factors because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Martin County Economic Development Action Plan identified an area in which most patents have been filed by the Martin County businesses and an area in which manufacturing occurs. The action plan suggests that this area could be a hub of technology and innovation. Staff's requested to further study the area and look at what actions could be taken to further expand innovation while retaining existing businesses. The Martin County Innovation Hub report is the preliminary document that can be used as a mechanism for generating entrepreneurship, job growth, and urban redevelopment. Sounds wonderful, folks. I mean, I'm all for job creation. Dare at the airport just yesterday had plans approved at the commission for expanding. We need those kind of jobs here. But then there's more. The Innovation Report provides recommendations on infrastructure, marketing, regulations, aesthetics, and potential opportunity sites. It established 5 principles to be utilized throughout the hub. 1, preserve and strengthen intergovernmental cooperation. 2, invest in educational and training programs. 3, enhance infrastructure, aesthetics, and public realm. 4, capitalize on site control as a tool to attract targeted innovative investment in technologies. And 5, expose innovation and entrepreneurship that's already taking place. All that sounds wonderful, but that's not exactly what's in this report, is it? It's a little more encompassing than that.
It's way deeper than that.
It truly is, and I'm going to let Gary get into it, but it jumped right out on me, one of the pages, and I'll put it in the comments here shortly. This is a 15-minute city. And what do we mean by a 15-minute city? And this is what the Innovation Hub is. The jobs are great, folks, but it's so much more. You all heard of Agenda 21, Agenda 30, 750 here in South Florida. All those are sustainable communities. And Innovation Hub is the newest shiny term to get people's attention. And they're also, in my opinion, they brought in businesses to try and make it look like it's going to be more of a community that's based around businesses. You know, that we're talking about the patents and bringing in great manufacturing jobs, but it's so much more than that. When you go through this book, this study, you'll see they'll start talking about how to construct the roads so that you pedestrian ways and bicycle ways and greenways and how it all fits in as a community. And again, that 15-minute community. The 15-minute city is an urban planning concept where all the essential services and amenities, work, education, healthcare, shopping, recreation, cultural activities are all accessible within a 15-minute walk or bike ride from residents' homes. They want mixed-use neighborhoods, walkability, bikeability, local access to services, social connectivity. Again, this is what started with Agenda 21, and this all goes back really to the 1980s when the Brundtland Commission, formerly known as the World Commission on Environment and Development, introduced a concept of sustainable development in an 87 report. And from there, we had Agenda 21, a global action plan adopted by the UN in 1992 to promote sustainable development at the local, national, and global levels. That turned into Agenda 30, which builds on 21, outlining 17 sustainable development goals aimed at ending poverty, protecting the planet, and ensuring peace and prosperity in 2030, or by 2030. And then we had 750, which was a regional blueprint for sustainable development covering Southeast Florida's 7 counties over 50 years, emphasizing environmental preservation, economic growth, equitable development. And now we have innovation hubs focused on fostering economic and technological innovation in sustainable ways, aligning with global sustainability priorities like those in Agenda 2030. I think folks mainly remember 750 because it wasn't all that long ago here. And finally, our commissioners decided to vote it down with the exception of Doug Smith. He had kept pushing this sustainable community. But, you know, here it is back again, the Innovation Hub. So, Gary, I want to put some pictures up in the comments, and I'm going to let you start talking about why, what caught your attention with this? Why did you look into it, and what is your findings?
So actually, it started at an NAC meeting, I believe, when they were saying this is what we need to do. This needs to be done. This needs to be done. And it was staff directed. So basically in your NAC meeting, I'll try to explain, if the community doesn't have an issue, staff directs a narrative, and then they come back and say, this is what's needed in the community. We had some community involvement in Port Salerno, and it just spread, realistically, it spread like wildfire because there was an investor at best buying up property, which it's all listed in the plan as part of the main corridor. And at that point, it was displacing residents. Businesses were contacted, and at that, you just had to look, and basically you had to attend a meeting. Well, it wasn't just one meeting because it was spread out all across the county, whether it was an NAC meeting, a CRA meeting, a Board of County Commission meeting. Business Development Board was involved, of course. Everything's listed in this plan. And you go and you ask a question and nobody wanted to answer it because, well, it wasn't implemented. I understand it was after COVID and they needed this, and yes, that's great. And sure, I would love to work 2 blocks from my house. But what's 2 blocks from my house? There's a boatyard. Well, I'm not in the boating industry, so they came up with a plan, and it's listed. They wanted to develop a downtown Port Salerno. The problem is we have a waterfront. We don't have a downtown, so they wanted to move it west of the tracks. Well, west of the tracks, it's
There's not
it's
much.
another boatyard.
Yep. There's not much there, but it is. It's waterfront working community.
It is a waterfront working community without a downtown, and not one resident has ever said we need a downtown. But they kept pushing it and pushing it. When you ask questions, no answers were ever given. At first they said it was the boat builders needed it. Well, there hasn't been a boat builder leave the industrial park. One did because of a roundabout in Rio, and that was it. Then they say, well, there's $80,000 jobs coming. Well, who's coming? Because nobody's saying anything. Then they use the cone of silence as if you ask a question. Well, cone of silence is over at some point. They still don't answer the questions.
That's the county. Every time they have something going out for an RFP, a cone of silence, they can't talk to anybody about it. Just to interrupt real quick, unfortunately, I was not able to add photos in the comments below the video, but I did on my Facebook page. There's a bunch of photos there. You can look at them as we're talking if you're on the Facebook Live feed and kind of refer to those. So it showed some of the conceptual areas for Port Salerno and where they wanted to put, I think they called it their fitment testing in the village.
Absolutely.
So, you know, Gary, you kind of started looking into this and seeing there was a lot of ties, and it's more, this is what shocked me with this plan, is it's not what it sounds like it's about, and that's creating new jobs and bringing in new industries. It's the 15-minute city. It's sustainable development.
The thing with the 15-minute city is they have included to the south the library, the hospital, extending all the way to the north into downtown Stewart, and the corridors in between. The problem is that they can't do anything with Dixie Highway because it's considered a state highway. But anything as far as the county, which they have Commerce, so their whole plan across Commerce was wider sidewalks, trees, bicycles, paths, and the paths will connect everything without hitting a major street. They've done the Camino Trail and Golden Gate. They're still doing it. They're still progressing on it. Everything you see in that plan is still being done, yet they say they don't have the money to do anything.
Well, through SOS, before I get into that, a couple comments here. Valesia Moran, sustainable seems to be in every sentence. You're right about that. Eric Miller, appreciate you tuning in. Eric's Talk About Martin, folks. He has a lot of great content that is relevant to Martin County, and of course a past guest and will be on again. Eric said these ideas are not created from the minds of those who voted for it. The ideas, plans, and checkmates are delivered from staff, the unelected. And, that's very true, Gary. As we see projects that are pushed through at county level, state level, the ones that are constant are staff. Commissioners come and go. Elected officials come and go. But something like this, I just brought up, Agenda 21 was started in the 90s. 750 was started about 2013, 2012. Staff's been there to continue to make sure these projects are moving forward. And that's really, I think you found that out dealing with a lot of the issues you have in Port Salerno with the county.
Well, staff won't answer the question. They direct it to the commissioners. The commissioners only know what staff tells them. George Stokas, I won't say he's lied, but he hasn't told everything. And even in the reports to the county commissioners, it wasn't a CRA. Anything that, as part of the Innovation Hub, wasn't a CRA funded thing, but yet They have the mooring field facility. They have, they're looking at possibly doing, or Sarah Hurd brought it up in a meeting that she wanted a linear park. Well, where is this linear park? Well, it runs behind Basin Seafood and Krabby all the way to the water retention pond. The problem with that is the county hasn't done anything with that in 20 years. We have residents of Save Our Salerno that live right on there that have asked the county to come clean up that area. The overgrowth is pushing on their fences and knocking it down, and the county fights amongst themselves saying, oh, that's a public works, or that's a Parks and Rec, or that's, no one's claiming it, but yet it's in that plan. And there's pictures of this beautiful park going around that retention pond. Where did that come from? And who's paying for that? They want to talk about $15 million for Brightline. This plan is over $65 million. Speaking with a commissioner or two, they said they doubt they'll get the funding. Well, they're doing it bit by bit, and they haven't touched any of the $65 million, when in fact they've touched probably $10 million of it. Brightline is a drop in the bucket compared to if they get this going.
Right. Which they were able to come up with money for Brightline in the blink of an eye, but other projects seem to linger on for years and years.
It'll be interesting to see about the grants.
Let me ask you this. Eric Miller, he said his opinion is the CRAs need to be disbanded, and he has an attachment in the Facebook feed for something that he wrote up in 2016 about that. We're talking a little bit about the CRAs because Port Salerno is a CRA.
Absolutely.
Sarah Hurd yesterday, who's now the chair of the commission, wants to disband them. She tried to disband them back in, 2012, 2013, something like that. And that was, when the new commission came in 2016, they made sure the CRAs were instated and had voice again. So we're going to see where all this goes with the CRAs. There's arguments, and we're not here to talk specifically about CRAs. There's arguments for or against them. But in Sarah Hurd's case, she doesn't attend. Have you seen her attend in meetings there or your neighborhood advisory committees?
I've attended the last 18 months of every NAC meeting and as many CRA meetings that I can get to. I was also the one that posed the question when Sarah Hurd sat in this chair and said she would attend. She hasn't been there. She hasn't been there, yet she says she wants control of NACs and CRAs. I sat in the last CRA meeting last year, and Eileen Vargas came in and sat behind me. I turned around and thanked her for attending. Eileen Vargas is trying to learn as quick as she can, and I believe she has her thumb on the community. Some of the questions she asks, and some people are getting upset with her, she's just learning. I mean, this is all new, and it's a huge amount of information. This, getting back to the Innovation Hub, though, it's a 129-page report of basically Cove Road to Witham Field extending into downtown Stewart. So there's a ton of information there. I don't want to call it a Bible, but it's just, it stretches all across the whole eastern part of Martin County.
If anybody would like a copy of that report, just go ahead and contact me. You can private message me. I'll send you a link. It's a very lengthy report, but the county does have it online through one of their commission meetings. It's not easily accessible, but it is something that you can find. It's a very interesting read. If you look in my previous comments on my Facebook page, you can see that map of the Innovation Hub. It's interesting because it's a sustainable, walkable, bikeable 15-minute community. With that, they want to have the electric bikes. They want to have the bike lanes. They want to have trains, which the fairgrounds is part of it, and they opted to put the train station outside of the Innovation Hub, which was a little surprising to me. But it's a whole inclusive plan. They've got a stormwater management, transportation plan. One thing that I I thought was very interesting. I mean, I love the new business part of it. I will never discourage that. But there was a couple things that they talked about, and that was the zoning in the Innovation Hub. A lot of it is industrial and commercial, which of course is good, and public service development. But then most of the identified opportunity sites for this innovation hub are commercial B1 development. So what do I mean by that? Residential density, 10 density units an acre, 45 feet or 4 stories. So there's your multifamily units. And again, that's what these sustainable communities are looking for. They're not looking for the American dream where you have your own home and a picket fence and a garden anymore. It's packing people in.
It's downtown.
It's a downtown where you don't have to go anywhere but there. Anything you need is within 15 minutes by bicycle.
The self-sustainable, I mean, I honestly wouldn't want to live in the area of that, but they have identified, as you said, every vacant piece of property in that area.
Which is more commercial for residential multifamily than it is business, which I thought was interesting.
Well, the other thing with this is the city of Stewart has annexed a lot of this property in the last 5 years. I mean, they did the 4 stories on the west side of US 1. Basically, the hub of this is just to the east of that. On the east side of US 1 is the last big piece of vacant land.
Right.
So that's where they have their building.
And one of the opportunity zones is the new apartments that are going up on the corner, I think it's of Cove in US 1 right now, Federal Highway. It's a very large vacant area, but there's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 parcels within that parcel, and one of them has already been developed for multifamily.
Oh, yeah.
Couple comments here. Eric Miller, the CRA is the same idea, benefits the few at the expense of many. So he's talking about there's tax benefits for those within the CRA. If you're outside of the CRA, you don't get those. And he also said, did the report happen to mention how they're going to deal with the homeless camps in their boundaries for the hub? You know, that's a really big issue right now. Is the state passed a new law where you cannot have homeless encampments. A lot of them are on private property or some public property, so the police are having to deal with that by statute, and we're not sure, what to do with the homeless.
Well, the county does. That's one of their things they don't want to talk about.
Oh no, they haven't.
But I mean, behind the Winn-Dixie at Salerno and US 1, they've actually mowed the lot, so they're doing their best to. I don't want to say they're pushing them out, but they're not making the spaces available for those people.
No, it's not very easy if you're homeless right now to, try and make it to the next day. I mean, you have to move. You have very, very little belongings to take with you, and some of them are even gone when they come and have to, take.
Absolutely.
Get rid of the camps. So it's a big problem right now, and you're right. There's not a lot of talk about it.
No.
Not an easy solution. Couple things here. This was something that caught my eye in the report. And when I listened to the meeting at the county, the Flare is the one that did this report, and they mentioned that air mobility is really the next generation of technology that's coming our way, and they actually suggested that we make sure we have something, like a vertiport. This is where you might have air taxis.
Sure.
Or just, we see it already with Amazon doing delivery with drones.
Absolutely.
So they believe that's really the next biggest technology that's coming our way, and it's something Martin County, it's right across from the airport, right? This Innovation Hub is part of that, so it kind of fits right in. I mean, there were some interesting parts to this.
Well, they just renewed, I believe they just renewed the lease with Dyer yesterday, and
They did.
They're looking to expand with 400 jobs, which is great. I don't know that 400 more people are going to park at the airport. So this is a perfect spot for outbuildings, and no one's against any of this. That's just it. What it is we're all kept in the dark. And I'll go back to maybe a nighttime commission meeting even,
Gary, there's a push for that right now to have a nighttime commission meeting. And I think that's really having this discussion today about this innovation hub was to make people aware of it. It's more than just an innovation hub by far. So it's really important that communities that are impacted understand this is out there. And Port Salerno, you're in the crosshairs of this. You need to protect your neighborhood however you see fit, and that's where people need to get involved and be able to talk to the commission and say, yes, this fits, no, this doesn't fit, because this innovation hub is not just bringing new companies and jobs, it's changing the face of the communities, which, you know, the last couple of years has been a pretty big discussion in Port Salerno.
Sure. Well, it's impacting Port Salerno and all the residents west of the tracks more so than the east. I mean, Rocky Point, any resident in Rocky Point wouldn't even, if you come out of Rocky Point and you stay on Cove Road and don't turn north on Dixie, you wouldn't have any idea. Stretching all the way to Golden Gate the same way. And the CRAs are doing the improvements in both areas. The one in the middle nobody wants to talk about is the Yacht Club of Stewart. I'm not sure how many homes are in there, but those people don't have any say in this, and they're in the middle of two CRAs, two NAC boundaries that could be totally evolved, and they have to come out onto Dixie Highway. They have nowhere to go. They're going left or they're going right. They get to pick their poison. They're at the biggest disadvantage because no one's included them in any of this.
And this has really been a ongoing issue, as far as I'm concerned, with the county. Is there's areas where I will say kudos to the county for being transparent. One of them is the emails. While they don't keep them quite up to date, they do come across on a public portal, and that's to the county administrator and the county commissioners. A lot of places don't have that, so kudos to them for that. But then there's just so much business that the general public does not know about, that doesn't even seem to ever hit the commission agenda, or if it does, it's almost too late. So it's very tough for people that are working. Let's jump back 1 second to a night meeting. Why can't we do that at least once a quarter, maybe once a month? And I understand commission meetings can be long, but you know what? There's nothing in statute that limits you to 2 or 3 meetings a month. Maybe you have 5 meetings a month. I'm sorry, but you know, you're paid $80,000 a year plus your benefits. Maybe have 5 meetings a month. This is a part-time job for a lot of our commissioners. Let's make this accessible to people that can make it during the day and at night. So I agree. At least one night would be good.
I agree 100%. I mean, Don Donaldson said yesterday during the commission meeting that they're all staff salaried employees and they would work the hours out. Depending on, I guess, what department you're working in, it would be the department heads are mostly on the sidelines at those meetings that are doing the reports and reporting. Maybe their hours change a little bit, but it wouldn't hurt.
You come in late that day and late the next day. You start at noon the 2 days. I mean,
absolutely.
It's an easy
it wouldn't
solution.
hurt. And Commissioner Capps brought up the fact that these meetings are running 6-8 hours. Well, they take an hour and a half for lunch. They take a 15-minute break in the morning. If they started at 4 and did public comment, well, yeah, you may have 3 hours of public comment, but guess what? Maybe pay attention to the people, you know?
And they don't have to be 6 to 8 hours if you add more meetings.
Well, if you had one a month,
make
or I'm
smaller
sorry,
agendas.
if you had one meeting a week, if you had a meeting every week, which I understand it's a lot on a lot of people, especially with everything else going on in the county. But one meeting a week, you could cut that meeting in half. So now it is only 4 hours.
That's right.
And if it does start at 5, if it's something important to me, I'm going to take off an hour early to get there.
That's right.
And I won't be up late.
And if it's coming up on another agenda or a topic, you can at least speak at public comment about it because you're not going to be at work.
Absolutely.
RJ spearhead a petition and push for the BOCC meetings at night. There is a lady out there she's the one that contacted me about it, that is pushing it, RJ. So I think a petition's a really smart idea. I'll talk with her about that, and I definitely will share it. Eric Miller, they'll certainly put in a roundabout. We've got a lot of those already, Eric. But you're right. I'm sure that they will. So that's RJ again. Regionalization suggestions to staff comes from the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, backed by UN Progressive. And Tammy said it's the job they wanted, commissioners, meaning, yeah, it might be late. Or for county staff, it might be late. But again, for one day, one meeting a month, you might have to stay at night. And then I would let staff come in late that day and late the next morning. I mean, there's solutions here if they want to look at it.
Staff does an excellent job of answering questions. If you have an issue and you write an RFP, I believe, not an RFP, a request for service. If you write a request for service, I've done it multiple times and had staff contact me within hours of the time I've submitted it. They say 2 days. I'm telling you, they do it in 4 hours. So staff does an excellent job getting back to the community. If they put it on their website, trust me, if they do a meeting once a month, it'll be on Save Our Salerno, it'll be on the Casey Ingram show, it'll be everywhere, and the ones that want it will be there. I mean, they tried to do the Wawa out west. Look how many people they had, no matter what time they do it. So if it's important to the community will be there. My biggest thing with this innovation hub is a waste of taxpayer dollars. So they propose 3 pedestrian bike bridges across the railroad tracks. That alone is like $12 million of taxpayer money that we don't need to spend.
And there's pictures of that on my Facebook page again, and I'll add this to the video. But oh my goodness, the one is crazy big. And I looked at the side cut view of it, and it had a bright line bridge sliding under it. Gary, they're going to be bigger than what's shown in those pictures because the freight trains are double stacked. So the bridge has to be even higher than what they depicted.
Absolutely.
For those freight trains. When you think about that, how that's one of the reasons why the bridge issue here in downtown Stewart for the train is a problem, because raising the train bridge, the double stacked freight trains still have to go under the Roosevelt Bridge because the tracks cross under there.
Absolutely.
So it's a height issue that you have to deal with. But those pictures are on there. I know that was a little jarring and surprising. Commissioner Hurd was here in the studio, and she had talked about wanting that pedestrian bridge in Port Salerno.
She brought to our NAC meeting her vision. She did a town hall meeting, which was like the first one I guess she's done in 4 or 5 years. I made the comment and I sent her an email. Even after the storms, the only time she's seen, if at all, are her walks in the morning. She's not in the public, as she says. I did happen to see her leaving Publix, so she shops at Publix. I know the store she shops at the same store I do. But as far as answering questions, as far as anything in the Innovation Hub, everything she's proposed in the last 2 years has come straight from this report.
So this Innovation Hub spans between 2 commission districts. It's Commissioner Hetherington's district as well as Commissioner Hurd's district.
Yes. So
have you had conversations with other commissioners about it, with your concerns, or what do you suggest people do besides looking at this report? Again, it's a good inch and a half thick. It's an easy read.
I've spoken with other commissioners about it. Stacy says it's a great thing, and it is. It is a great thing. It will be great for the community.
There's a lot of good aspects to it.
There are a lot of great aspects to it, but at what cost? I mean, there's so many. They talk about housing for these people and the potential money that they'll be making, $85,000 a year jobs. The new thing at the airport, those are not minimum wage entry level positions. I'm sure there's a few, but they're sustainable income
good
jobs.
Yes.
And where those people are going to live. Well, that translates. I don't know that they're all going to live inside of this hub. So they still need to travel to work.
Well, that's just it. Again, the American dream used to be having the home with the white picket fence, and these sustainable communities do not have that anymore. It's smaller homes, it's multifamily developments, it's getting rid of your car so you can walk or bike to work, walk or bike to the grocery store, walk and bike to the park, and you have your restaurants and bars, everything within walking distance of 15 minutes. So I agree with you. Your high-paying jobs are probably going to move out of the hub where they have might be on the water, might be more acreage. Who knows? It's
Absolutely.
that's what people want. But this is really the whole thing with the sustainable communities that has started back in the 80s with Agenda 21. It's the push for putting everybody in these convenient little pods, and I just feel like they're dressing them up to make it look shiny, and the jobs are so attractive. We desperately need them here in Martin County, good paying jobs. I think that companies that provide these good paying jobs are going to really add to our tax base and take some of the burden off of all the homeowners, right? This is unsustainable to have homeowners completely pay for Martin County. So there's some good aspects to it, but if you look at these 15-minute cities, Meisner Park down in Boca and even Abacoa, you find out the retail section in Abacoa is struggling. The homes are great, struggling.
Absolutely.
Down in Meisner Park, they had the apartments on top of all the retail. People didn't want to live there because it was noisy at night, and they found out that didn't work because they want to have some peace and quiet.
If you're a 30-something or even a 20-something and you want to live down there where the action is, I'd say my son happens to live right outside of Abacoa. He's in the Abacoa area right outside of the downtown. And he told me this weekend that he walked to some of the events there. And you know what? That's great. But he chose to be there. My thing is they didn't ask any resident any of this plan, yet they want to implement each part of it without any public input. Zero.
And we absolutely need input. These are our neighborhoods, and I'm bringing it in. We talk about these sustainable communities, and RJ, you're right. The Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council has pretty pictures, and they're creating these all around different areas in the nation. To be honest with you, and nobody figures out how to pay for them. There's parts of them that'll work, and that's what I'm saying with Abacoa. It's fun for him, but the retail down there, if he owned the retail business, he probably wouldn't be as excited. The homes are beautiful. I love Abacoa, but these sustainable communities have not found their way to make it work for every aspect of it yet. So you're in here today saying this innovation hub, there's a lot more to it than just jobs and just manufacturing and just companies bringing in new ideas or innovation. These can really change the face of your neighborhood, the fabric of it.
It will be totally different if it all goes through. I may not see it in my lifetime, but I know my kids will.
Well, they've been starting this since the 80s. So,
right.
I mean, it's people that are bringing this up saying, is this right for us? Is this going to work? And this is 750 was defeated because of people standing up, which you are now, saying, wait a minute, let's look at this project. Let's make sure everything fits into our community. Couple comments here, Gary. Eric Miller, Stack and Pack. RJ, save working and middle class taxpayers from the BOCC, irresponsible spending of our tax dollars, austerity now. There has been a lot of irresponsible spending, in my opinion. Tammy says they need to remember also that Port Salerno is a historical town. A lot of what Commissioner Hurd wants to do is destroying that. What is next? St. Augustine. That's a good point. Historical town, historical buildings, those are things that you don't want to replace or remove and destroy.
They listed Park Drive in this innovation hub as waterfront. And right now, I believe there's 9 homes along Park Drive. It may be 8. 8 homes along Park Drive and a mooring field upland facility in the corner of Manatee Park. Manatee Park was, I believe, 0.02 acres, and the county says, well, why are we worried about 0.02 acres? Manatee Park was given to the community 100 years ago, so Port Salerno would always have a place to go on the water.
No matter where you lived, if you were a resident.
They've now put an 800 square foot building and an upland facility for transient boaters in that .02 acres. They've had to realign the road. They've used public right-of-way. It pushes all the way up to a driveway at Pirates Cove. They're adding, amazingly, they found the money with RNAC money to tie in the sewer on Park Drive. If you look in the book, it shows shops where the houses are and the working waterfront. Well, they don't want to get rid of the fishermen. I mean, that's us. That is Port Salerno. I've attended many meetings. They had one at this Stewart Feed, downtown Stewart. They had a Port Salerno history. I attended that. Excellent to learn about the history of Port Salerno. Trying to put a downtown on the west side of the tracks, I don't know that you have a working waterfront and a downtown 3 blocks away. And investors coming in, buying up properties and trying to scare off residents is where the Sabar Salerno started. It's where I got involved. And it's just become a one big money grab.
Eric Miller said Doug Smith begged for us to be and succeeded in making Martin the first sustainable county in Florida. Enter 750. That's right. He held on to that 750 to the very end. Staff is behind it. Eric, I do believe that. Staff is, again, the constant in government. Commissioners come and go, elected officials come and go, but staff are generally there to stay. So they can keep pushing an agenda that might have started 20 years ago because they're still there. Tammy said trying to push out 5th and 6th generation families is what she feels like this is. And
absolutely.
I just actually wrote a brief paper talking about gentrification, which is exactly what it is. And it's the people that started these communities are getting pushed out and left behind. So folks, it's people like Gary and SOS, and I've talked to a lot of folks in Port Salerno in particular. But it's your voices that are going to protect your communities, and I appreciate you coming in here today. You've studied this Innovation Hub recommendation report from Business Flair in depth, and you were alarmed because it wasn't, again, just adding some new businesses. It was going to change the face of Port Salerno. They have visions for it that you hadn't heard of.
It's way more, and it extends a lot farther than the report. Everything keeps coming back to that report, and it has its good points, but it calls for expanding and widening commerce, which is the back road through the industrial park.
Right.
You know, US 1 being the front road and commerce being the back road.
Right.
Well, they want to expand commerce, and they want to put a 10-foot sidewalk, and they want to have EV bike charging stations, and they want to be able to get across the tracks on the bridge and be able to get from the library to the airport on an electric bike in less than 15 minutes. And yes, you can do it all if this plan goes into effect. What residents are displaced by it? Oh, I'm sure there'll be a few. But it does have broadband capabilities in it. It does have charging stations in it. You get across the tracks. There's a lot of wasted taxpayer money as far as I'm concerned. And I don't see, if maybe we saw some investment other than somebody buying a piece of property and wanting to flip it and make $1, that'd be fine. If they did develop the rest of the industrial park, that'd be fine. But that industrial park at best has been 60 to 70%. And the county is looking to infill the industrial areas. Commissioner Hurd said she wasn't approving any more industrial properties because we had 70% of the industrial areas that are open. This happens to be probably 30% of the whole plan in Martin County. So yes, they are pushing for that, and the airport expansion could come to the innovation hub, as you said. The small heliports,
Yes.
whether it's package delivery or these aren't manned airplanes. These are drone driven package delivery or whatever. I'm sure UPS, FedEx, all the rest of them would take a spot in there if there was a need for it.
Oh,
we will
yes.
see.
Yeah, I mean, supply and demand, definitely they will take. You'll find companies if there is a need for it. The vertiport, the innovations with air travel is going to be very interesting to see that come forward. But you talked about, again, they have a whole section on the strategy for aesthetics. And they pointed out to the Lazy Way in Key West and Gulfport, Florida, different towns. It's fine to have visions. It's fine to talk about this. I think where Gary's coming from is you kind of were surprised when you heard about this innovation hub, and it's where's the discussion within the communities it's going to impact the most.
The thing that got me the most was everything needed to be approved through an innovation I don't know, kind of like an NAC.
Okay.
If I could find it again, it was towards the back of the report, and it was everything goes through.
I think it was a committee with was it the Economic Council and the BDB and the Commission? Is that way?
Yeah, but it was separate from that. It was a
And while you're looking for
targeting funding opportunities, build to scale, build back better, multi appropriations, electrification, telecommunications, utilities, what they want to do, what they're doing with stormwater, what they're doing with air mobility, and as you said, the aesthetics. Martin County Hub matching revenues and assessments representing areas that need future funding for this hub. They're talking about matching strategies.
Well, this is where I went back to a lot of these sustainable communities or 15-minute cities that they're trying to build. A lot of them haven't been completely successful, and a lot of them don't even get built in the first place because it's not financed. There's not a good way to finance these and get them built out for investors unless you're getting your grants from HUD. HUD is a big one to get grants out to try and they're behind this to push these sustainable communities. But they did talk about that. Local financial institutions, startup VCs, local business developer government, federal and state grants, local fees and tax revenue, local bonds, loans and revenues, community foundation, micro-lending funds, capital assets, goodwill economic development, and revenue invested back home. Those were different things that they talked about leveraging it. You say it, but it's easier said than done, let's say that. And while you continue to look for that, Robert Hamilton, thank you. He said, appreciate you keeping us informed. We know about owning a historical building and dealing with local government. We also appreciate more people standing up thanks to you and your podcast. That's what it's about. We all have to get our voices out there and heard. If you don't speak up, nothing happens.
If you want to find out what's going on and you live inside one of these boundaries, whether it's Port Salerno, Jensen Beach, Rio, Golden Gate, Old Palm City, attend your local NAC meeting. Just go in and sit down. Save Our Salerno's done an excellent job of getting people at the Port Salerno NAC meetings, and we will continue to do it because everybody is like, what's going on? How do we know about where did this come from? Well, there's email blasts and shows like this that the Port Salerno residents are listening to, and then one question becomes another. It's way deeper than any one thing.
And Gary, I have to say, Save Our Salerno folks, especially for your CRA down there, people have learned a lot through Save Our Salerno, just you put out or you'll post when the meetings are, the county commission meetings, the NAC, neighborhood advisory committee meetings, the CRA, your community redevelopment, associations. You put all that out there so people can attend, and I think people were surprised. And not only that, you've put some people on the boards that are in the community who want to share it with everybody else. Not that people before didn't, but I think that it's become more of a goal to make sure the community knows we're not just going to our meetings, serving our time. Gary, you didn't have time to go, but guess what they're suggesting?
Our big thing in Salerno is septic to sewers.
Yes.
We agree, and it is a topic in the county, but it's totally, everything we want is septic to sewers, and we want all of our NAC money directed to that. I've been to plenty different NAC meetings. They all have different issues, but right now Salerno is septic to sewer in New Monrovia, bringing up New Monrovia Park, which just suffered an ungodly, the tornadoes that came through there just tore it to pieces, and we've done everything we can to help out everyone we can.
That's another whole show, but yes, absolutely. Casey's really helped to bring in the tiny homes, and you guys have worked so hard down there. Speaking of the septic to sewer, thank you on that. That's a water quality issue, folks. All of us should be concerned about that here in Martin County. The discharges are one thing, but there's a lot of runoff as well. So I agree with you. That should be a major, major focus. New Monrovia also had a problem just hooking up to clean water.
Well, I don't even want to get into that, but that's the old septic, the old Solatron / fund, Superfund site. The Superfund site and the cleanup. And they're still doing monitoring. They monitor it every 5 years, and they cannot put a well in the Monrovia area, and those people are forced to tie into city water.
Okay.
Or not city water, county utilities. I believe there's some septics that are still being permitted, but they want to. Why are we doing septics whenever we're trying to do septic to sewer?
Right.
Anyway, that's the funding that's where we want our tax dollars being spent, and to help those residents, all residents really, to get a better deal on a septic to sewer hookup.
So Gary, again, thank you for coming in today. We're winding
for having
down.
me.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. But this shows just having Gary in here today how important it is to look at that neighborhood advisory committee. Every area has one. The CRAs have them. There's I think 6 now CRAs around the county. So we've got one over in Rio, Palm City, Stewart, Johnson Beach. So
if you're hearing this show, please get involved.
Please get involved. That's what it's about, because you're finding out there's a lot of decisions being made that will be made with or without you. So let's hope they're with you and you can at least get your opinion in there.
That's it.
It's incredibly important. So, all right, Gary Ehrler, it's been a pleasure. Next week, folks, I'm going to have Commissioner Sean Reed in the studio. It's going to be a really interesting show. He's going to talk about his first 5 months in office and even day one, how interesting that was. So that'll be Commissioner Sean Reed from the City of Stewart. A lot of updates from the City of Stewart and County Commission meetings this week. I'll try and put something out. But I have to go now. We are out of time.